was an amazing contrast was contrasting that with the level of militarization around it. So while you have all these black folks that are embracing each other, loving each other, affirming each other, in the presence of that, it almost seems like, you know, the institution of civil society doesn't want us to do that, given all the military presence around.
Let me ask you about another kind of clear difference here, and that is, you know, from the early days, from Monday and Tuesday, there was a lot of conversation of Ferguson, and Ferguson in the context of Baltimore. And it does feel to me like when you see this mayor elected in part by the black political power in this city, when you see this attorney who clearly has a sense of not only sort of personal but electoral connection to this community, at least at the moment, we're having very, very different responses from that city government. We don't know what it's all going to end up being, but you know, so the Ferguson comparison now falls apart completely. And I guess I'm wondering how you build on that in the activism, the kind of ongoing activism that will go on after the cameras leave.
Well, I mean, I think there's an important distinction to be made between the Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake and the City State's Attorney Marilyn J. Mosby. Many people, I think, would say that our mayor is someone who has capitulated to the corporate structure of the Democratic Party and many of the corporate interests in this city. And I think as we see what happens, you know, in our society writ large, is that oftentimes individual black people are put in positions of power leadership in white-controlled dominating institutions, which brings more black people into those institutional arrangements, which undermines our ability to develop a kind of communal, independent black institution building as the basis of our work. And so Marilyn Mosby being elected was important because she was elected, as was alluded to earlier, for the purpose of prosecuting law enforcement officials. And she didn't get the same kind of corporate support. You know, she was outspent tremendously by the incumbent, but she was able to get the grassroots support she needed. And I think this is what kind of gives her, and it was very courageous of her to do what she did yesterday, but I think she knows the kind of support she has behind her, and that's important. That's an important contrast. And I think, if I could just say something else really quickly, because I think the Ferguson comparison is important, because I think people reduce racism to individual, you know, white folks in leadership, black people who are succumb to white folks, and I think Baltimore shows the sophistication of white supremacy and how it operates, how it takes black figures, put them in institutional positions to give the veneer of justice when really the same institutional arrangement exists.
Love, you just dropped the mic so hard on that original structural dissertation provided live on air. I ain't even gonna come to the panel.